classic Disney formula of a parallel world of mice and other animals living in a miniaturized version of our own should probably be considered to have originated in Walt's own workshop at the very beginning. But it isn't until disco was in full swing that this concept makes its way into the center stage with the socially complicated and thematically dense feature, The Rescuers. I say socially complicated because the sheer number of social and class gradients working against each other, combined with the second-wave feminist undercurrent, create a vortex of interactions that would make for a lot of awkward conversations if nearly the whole cast weren't so resolutely goal-driven as to gloss straight over whatever it might be that would complicate the discussion up to this point, except of course for Bernard. Bernard is the quintessential everyman, thrust into a Who's the Boss style gender comedy that can only exist in that social moment where second-wave feminism was cresting, and his awkwardness about this defines his character much more than his desire to help, his superstitions, or his Socratic bravery, which has him rushing ever forward despite his obvious fear. Bernard starts the film as a janitor to the Rescue Aid Society, which looks and sounds awfully clubhouse for an organization ostensibly operating in the shadows of humanity since antiquity and housed in the UN headquarters. Incidentally, if you look carefully, you'll see Muammar Gaddafi hustle past the camera in the intro. Bernard is immediately seized upon by Eva Gabor playing, well, Eva Gabor, except as a mouse. He isn't really smitten so much as awkwardly trying to navigate the very real possibility that he's only on this trip to satisfy the RAS, that they haven't sent a woman alone on a dangerous mission, and at the same time to make himself useful enough to prove that he isn't just an accessory. This entire dynamic would be scrapped entirely in the 1990 sequel and replaced with a romantic rivalry, which fit better in its social context at the end of a decade of women in shoulder pads. But the aim in both cases was the same: to show off Bernard's awkwardness and give grown-ups in the audience someone to empathize with. Speaking of grown-ups, we only get 2 adult humans in the show long enough to qualify as characters, and boy are they pieces of work. Mirroring Bernard's awkwardness is the useless Mr. Snoops, but he's overshadowed in spades by the magnificently evil Madame Medusa. Medusa's voice actress and the animators collaborate to do a magnificent job of making us utterly revile her with every word, every intonation oozing malice, selfishness, and her near-universal hatred. And if the film has a pivotal weakness, it is that Medusa is so beautifully terrible that the writers make the sensible decision and keep her out of the picture most of the time, forcing them to invent a whole host of background dilemmas, troubling travel options, and tagged-on bit characters to fill in the gaps. They make a thematic mush of the whole picture, which would really drag it down if it weren't such charming amusements that were placed in there, like the cast of Robin Hood forming a bizarre backwater lynch mob, or Bambi's silhouette scarfing down bayou grass like it was the very oats of Elysium, and of course, Keyboard Gator. In closing, The Rescuers marks the beginning of a subset of the Disney portfolio that amuses with quirks of scale, captures our hearts with believable human suffering, and plays to the very core of furry fantasy. It's also the root of the tree that gave us Gadget Hackwrench, who's actually worshipped as a deity in parts of Russia. No, I'm not kidding, you can look that up.
Furry Under Scrutiny with William F. Stagley is made possible by software from the Blender Foundation, an unhealthy fixation with animated films, and viewers like you. Thank you.